of the three sort of drives or capacities that we have, al-Raghib al-Isfahani said we have thought, we have urge or impulse, however we want to translate that, and we have anger. Which one is the hardest to control? Which one is the hardest to master? Al-Raghib al-Isfahani, he says, no doubt, the urge, no doubt. It's the urge and the impulse. And by this, we're talking about shahwa, we're talking about desire for things such as food, such as sex, these sorts of things. Why is it the most difficult one to control? The author identifies three reasons. First, because it's tied to the perpetuation of our species. Okay, it's like in a very immediate way. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the desire for food so that we satisfy our hungry and can stand upright, and so that we can live, more than a couple days. If we didn't have that internal hunger and experience food as delicious and tasty, then our survival might be in jeopardy, or it might at least be in doubt. Okay, well, sex is the same thing, right? Sexual arousal, how are we going to survive as a species? Okay, what if Allah created us without any sexual desire whatsoever, right? Maybe we would just die out. Maybe people would be busy with other stuff and they would just forget about that need entirely. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it in us, these two desires, to push us to meet our needs, our individual needs, our individual survival, and our collective survival. And so because they are so immediate to our survival, they're the strongest, right? They're stronger than your capacity for thought. They're stronger than and more immediate than your ability to get angry, right? So that's the first reason. The second reason is because this type of capacity, the capacity for shahwa, for desire, for urge, it's in every single creature, okay? Whereas you look at animals and you look at plants, okay, do plants get angry? I don't know, maybe they do, but I'm not aware. Like, maybe they don't, okay? We kind of have this sort of, that is sort of special to us, okay? Do mountains think? Again, maybe they do, but we don't know. We haven't been able to discern that, and it seems like they might not, right? They might have other qualities. The Prophet ﷺ talked to Uhud, and he said to Uhud to calm down and things like that, and we love Uhud, and Uhud loves us, so we're not depriving these sorts of creatures of their due right. But it seems like shahwa, the need for food and the need for reproduction, is something that is way more widespread across creatures than necessarily anger or thought. So that's the second reason. And al-Raghib al-Isfahani, he says even plants turn towards the sun. So he gives us as an example of how plants have this sort of shahwa. For them, their food is from the sun. And so even a plant that we think of as not moving, it's stuck where it is, it turns towards the sun. That's how strong its desire for food and survival is. And the final reason is because indulging in your urge, indulging in your desire for food and your desire for sex is more enjoyable than your indulging of the other two capacities, okay? Nobody really enjoys indulging in their anger, okay? You don't get angry and, flip out at somebody and say, oh, that was great, I really enjoyed that. Or even thought, okay, some people, they might really enjoy a book or some intellectual discussion, but it's not the same. It's not as tasty, as delicious, it's not as attractive, it's not as satisfying as engaging in the urge. And so all of this leads us to conclude, says the author, al-Raghib al-Isfahani, that the urge is the most difficult one to control, which is why the Prophet ﷺ said that whoever is able to control what's between his lips or between his teeth, meaning his tongue, and what's between his legs, then this is something that is an amazing virtue. Like he indicated, ﷺ, that this is fundamental, right? And this is kind of the mouth and what's between the legs. This is kind of the source of, or the location of, these two urges and desires. So if you're able to control and master these sorts of things, then you're going to become elite. You're going to be in rarefied air. You're going to be on the vanguard of humanity, because very few people think about this. Whereas if you leave it unchecked, then you're opening yourself up for all sorts of problems. One of those problems is that you're going to be very, very easy to control. You're not going to be independent, because you can easily be manipulated. You can easily be bribed. You can easily be seduced, right? You can be subject to the threat of having these things removed, or you can be kind of influenced and bought by the promise of getting these sorts of things. And if we look at the history of social movements in the United States or in other places, often what happens is that social movements peter out because the leadership is not disciplined enough, and they get involved in drugs, or they get involved in women, or they get involved in these sorts of things. They don't have the discipline. They haven't mastered this urge. And so they're very easily to undermine, to infiltrate, to subvert, to buy out, right? So mastering these two things is something that actually sets us free. Mastering the urge is something that sets us free. We become self-sufficient and independent. And we're able to be, as the author said earlier, we're able to be generous with what we have, and through that generosity become much more noble.